Oh, how is everybody doing? How's things? How's life? How's the universe? How's your week been? Hello to John, if you're still here and not off doing chores. Hello to Phil. Hello to Joe, and hello to Harry. How you guys doing? How's things? How has everybody's week been? Joe, nice car. I mean, we've spoken about it a bit. It's not what I would call my favorite, but at the same time, you do have some limited choices, and so I understand. But yeah. Hello, John. Not responsible enough for chores. How are you, nerds? Well done. I'm enjoying an evening sat next to a quietly whirring hard drive. Nice. Technically, it's 3. For some context, Phil is the lovely human who I set the my offsite backup NAS up with, and I actually just got it working yesterday. So I've done my first proper offsite backup, and so I now have an assured clone of all my data. So if my system goes to pot or whatever else, I am nicely secured from data loss, and it doesn't cost me over £1,000 just to retrieve my data. Amazon. Yeah. Hello, Harry. Hello, Silent R slash. Hello. How you doing? Those things. I can't read. So I'm an old man. Also, hello. CMDR classified. I also can't read, so acronyms don't work well with me. But how you doing? How's things? Assuming I don't charge your surprise data retrieval fee. Hello, Joe. It's surprisingly big for an SUV actually, which makes it more bearable. The Kodiaq and Tiguan were embarrassing. Yeah, that's the thing with like the crossover size SUVs, is that it's clearly just a car that's like had anaphylactic shock, rather than like, if you get in a Land Rover Defender, or even if you get in a Range Rover, you're a tosser, but at least you're projecting the image you want to project. Driving in a Tiguan or a what's the other one? X-Cross or whatever it is, the even smaller VW one. I mean, all that really says is just what do you call it? That you like are an OAP, and you need a higher seat to get into because your hip doesn't work so good after the operation. T-Rock, thank you. That's the one. So yeah, CMDR stands for Commander, FYI. That would make sense. Yes. I never claimed to possess any level of brain cells. Yes. Hello. Do not buy a Land Rover. I'm a mechanic, 35 plus years, and they're garbage and expensive to repair. Oh no, I'm not saying you should. I'm saying if you buy one, you're projecting the image you think you are. But you shouldn't buy one, especially the Range Rover's pre-Tata ownership. The Range Rovers from like 2003 or whatever to like 2010s-ish. Everything on those brakes, when I say everything, I mean everything. And so yeah, don't. I mean, even the newer ones, I still wouldn't recommend. What was it? The modern the this is ridiculous. So, in the Range Rover and even I think in some Jags, they come with V8s, especially like petrol V8s, quite a lot. But they offered a V6 option, right? You want to get a little less displacement, you don't mind a little less power, and you want a touch better fuel economy, right? Now, most car manufacturers, when they say we're going to make a V6, well, what they do is they just kind of lop off the one end of the V8 that they've already designed, and they go, yeah, that's about right. They might add a balance shaft or something, but generally speaking, it's pretty much the same engine. They've just lopped off the front 2 cylinders. Jaguar Land Rover took that a step further, and the V6 in a Range Rover is a V8 with 2 cylinders missing at the back that they've not bored the holes for, and shorter cylinder heads. But the crankshaft still has to be 8 cylinders long because they've just only used the front 3 cylinders in each V. It's ridiculous. I can't remember the engine code, but if you Google Jaguar V6, Land Rover V6, I'm sure you'll find the picture of it. The British should not be allowed to build automobiles. Hey, that was Tata's ownership. They did that in Tata's ownership. You're not wrong though. I have a friend in a Touareg that he uses to tow a trailer. It's bloody massive, and I can't imagine it making sense as a daily driver. Yeah, I mean, even towing, like, most estates can tow mostly as well as an SUV. Only when you get to, like, the Ford F-150, where they've kind of, like, bumped up the towing capacity and the rear suspension can handle it. But even then, a lot of the towing capacities are, like, marketing BS anyway, so... Hello, Chris, how you doing? Hello, Ish, how are you doing? Come on, you're a smart guy. Sometimes. I get the X Trail at the end of November. I'm looking forward to take it for a spot of off-roading. Not sure mobility will be too enthusiastic about that, though. Don't get stuck. Most of the Land Rover V8s are derived from the aluminium Buick V8s back in the day, and I mean in the 60s. That sounds about right. I have 3 Rovers and 3 Jags at my shop, all nightmares. Also sounds right. Could you technically bore it out and make it a V8? Seems completely counterintuitive. So, I think technically maybe, but you would need to get the new cylinder heads, you need to get a new exhaust, a new intake, you need to recode the ECU to handle 2 extra cylinders, you need 2 extra coil packs and spark plugs, and you need to bore it out. And so, generally speaking, the cost effectiveness, it's not like you know, with my S4, the V6 has a supercharger on top and just a simple remap so that it stops opening the bypass valve as much. It gives me 420 horsepower up from 330, and then if you do a stage 1 pulley, you get to 480, and then if you do top pulley and bottom pulley and things like intercooler and stuff like that, then you get 520 or something. But that's quite cost effective to do, because the first one is a software tune, the second one is a tiny pulley that slides on the front of the, well, you got to heat it and whatnot, but it slides on the front of the supercharger, and then away you go. With that sort of bore out 2 extra cylinders kind of job, it is way more cost effective to just buy a scrapyard V8 instead and just drop it in. But I think technically speaking, maybe, but cost effectively, you just buy a used one. You could probably even buy a brand new one from like short block from Land Rover, or even a long block from Land Rover, for less than it would cost to bore it all out. Hello Zig, hello Simon, and hello Budget Bench. How you guys doing? Don't RAC recover from fields when you're bogged down? I don't know, actually. The only time I've ever spoken to a breakdown service is when I had... My first car was a 2006 Renault Clio, which was actually the Mark II, not the Mark III. It was like the very last kind of rounded Clio. Renault, in their infinite wisdom, decided to connect the clutch pedal to the clutch cable via this little linkage bracket, which was two ball and socket cup, like ball and cup sockets, where the ball was metal and the socket was a metal casing and then like nylon sort of bushing basically. And then, you know, as you push the pedal, that both transmits the force and like turns a bit, which is probably why they did that. Except here's the thing. Just to make it clear, metal shrinks when it's cold, and nylon wears quite easily when you have a metal ball that's like rubbing on it, you know, hundreds of times per time you get in the car. And so what happens after 10 years or so of usage is the ball just like, especially when it's cold outside and the metal ball shrinks a little bit, it just pops off. And then you don't have a clutch anymore. So that happened while I was driving to college, to sixth form, and I didn't know what happened. It hadn't happened to me before, and I called my dad and he said, better call A and, you know, get a tow. So I called them and they wanted not only the like highest, like they wanted me to sign up for an annual membership before they would do anything. They would also charge, which was like £130, they would also charge me another £100 immediate call out fee. Not like, I had no, like, if I was gonna have them come and, you know, rescue my car, I had to pay them like £230 for £130 for an annual membership, and then £100 for a haha, you didn't already have this membership fee. And since then, so first of all, I fixed the problem at the roadside because I like pushed the car onto the like central reservation basically, or just off of a roundabout, and then like looked on the dash because the clutch pedal was just flapping back and forward. And I thought the clutch cable had snapped, but turns out it was just that like ball and socket, so clicked it back on. Car was working again. So, since then I have become painfully aware of everything that's wrong with my car, and I fix it as soon as I can, so that I am both never in that situation again, and I've never paid AA, RIC, or any other breakdown cover a penny, because they're all scumbags. I understand the need to make money, but at the same time, scumbag move. And thus At the Wheel was born. Thanks, A. Bit of a time gap, but yeah. Men designed this, they should know how cold makes balls small. Titan shriveled. Hello, Hornet, how you doing? How's things? Oh, God. And my shop is right next door to Range Rover. Impressive. How many tow vehicles do you see a day? And for reference, I'm from Canada, Salt Spring Island, BC to be exact. Nice. We have a Land Rover specialist shop over here that has every part for every old Land Rover. Has a huge following here. Understandable. I mean, like an old Defender, I can see as a. I mean, they're reliable enough workhorses since they're used in every farm ever, so they're not too bad. I had an AA guy help me with a breakdown at work. Was a decent guy, helped out a lot, didn't fix the issue, but did book a tow 40 miles for 2 weeks later. Fair enough. I had an AA membership and my car broke while I was at work. Fair play. I'm not saying that their services aren't useful. They most definitely are. It's the kind of somewhat predatory practice of you can't just call them up and pay them for a single tow. They, you know, their sales department says, "Oh no, we must bill you for the most expensive annual membership and charge you a call out fee." Like, yeah. And then there's the whole, like, depending on what membership you pay for, depends on where they will take you. Because if you, like, the cheapest membership, they'll basically only take you to like, an AA, a garage where AA, RRC, or whoever get commissions based on what like people they bring in, whereas if you pay for the more expensive one, then they'll like take your car home like you would expect them to, or to a garage like near your house rather than like within 5 minutes of wherever you broke down. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of those practices personally. The breakdown people do push batteries and such to the people who break down. They get commission. That's also true. Yeah. Father-in-law has 3 Range Rovers. He's constantly working on them. It's a shame because I do love Range Rovers or Land Rovers, but everybody I've known that's had one has problems. Yeah, that's correct. There was one not far from me that every time we'd go to the shops or whatever, you'd go past it, and it was one of the, like, I don't know, maybe 2003, 2004, big Range Rover, and it was on jack stands on the front for 3 years, not moving. Like occasionally you drive past and like the wheels would be missing, and then a couple of weeks later the suspension would be missing because the air struts that are on them fail all the time. So those would be missing, and then a couple of weeks later the wheels and everything would be back on, but it'd still be in the jack stands. And then one day it just vanished, and I think it's because the people who lived there moved. So yeah. Have we talked about tech at all? I don't think we have. Who cares? I'm wearing the At the Wheel hoodie, so that's close enough. Nice one, nice one-ish. Here's some tech for you. I have a habit of designing and building things, and one of the things that I've been building is, so these are the last 2 versions of the PCB, first generation, second generation, for, I had to print a new case because the other one broke. The open source latency testing tool. And so, you have a light sensor for monitor latency. You have an audio jack for audio latency, and also for plugging in a mic to then have that act as the trigger. So instead of pressing the button, you can have it hear you click. Where's my mouse? So I don't do something stupid. It can hear you click your mouse and trigger that. And you also have this pinned input, so if you do want to physically wire to something, the closest pin to you here, you can supply anything up to, like, technically 50 volts. That's what the little MOSFET's rated for. I wouldn't. 3.3 volts would be preferred because that's the logic level of this, but this pin input is not connected to the microcontroller in any way. It's connected to the gate of the transistor and then goes straight to ground through a resistor, so we're all good. And yeah, this is the V3 as the text in the back mentions, and I've been hacking around with the software to get everything working, because this is, well, it is the same family as the OS RTT, or open source response time tool boards. It's a slightly different chip, and it's a different package, and it's from a different vendor, so it's not from Adafruit, it's now from Seed Studio, and that's kind of a big deal, because with Adafruit, their libraries and their bootloaders and their compilers are fantastic. They're just, everything is thought through, everything is, like, everything you could want to do with it works perfectly. With this board, if you're using it in fairly standard ways, it works perfectly fine, but as soon as you start kind of pushing things, you really have to mess around with it. Luckily, I think that I've messed around with it enough to the point where it's now all working for me, so that's good. But yeah, it's a little bit of a challenge. 50 volts seems tad excessive. It is, but considering, there's I've mentioned this a few times, but there's a Hollywood movie studio called Magnopus who do a lot of the live stage stuff. So they basically have, instead of having green screens and then having to composite all the effects and the world around the actors after the fact, they basically just have a massive digital screen that something like Unreal Engine 5 is running the world around them, and then the actors get to act more realistically like in the world rather than around green screens and not necessarily knowing what's going on. So they bought an open source response time tool, the Pro, and wanted to use it for testing latency. This is going to be a better fit for that, but I don't know what voltages and things they're necessarily going to be wanting to put into this as a trigger. So I thought that I would do my best to make sure that it won't blow up with anything reasonably digital. Just in case. You know, a lot of their stuff will be 24 volt or 48 volt or 12 volt, whatever, so just in case. Hello, Janice, how you doing? I hear good stuff from Seed, like their ARM router firewall switches. How about tapping up the PR for test units? It's probably not a bad idea, actually. I mostly, like, from their, development boards, this is one of the, like, bare ones. See if it's going to focus. It's Seeduino. And the nice thing about this one compared to the Adafruit boards is it's got USB-C. And actually the other nice thing is that it can do through hole, like you do have holes there, but it's also surface mount because those pins go to the edge, so it's surface mount soldered instead of through hole, which very good. Yeah, for their other more sort of complete stuff, things like their routers and what you call it. I've watched all the Jeff Keeling's videos. The various non-specifically just solo microcontroller stuff. Yes, probably a good idea. What are your thoughts on the 4070? So obviously I don't have one. You probably would have seen a video about it if I did. As with everything, the lower down the sort of tier list you go, generally the better value it is. I'm kind of from the reviews that I saw on launch day, I was surprised at how well AMD's cards are holding up. But yeah, it's probably not the best value, and I think it's not selling, it's not like, the 3070 where it was off the shelves in instants and therefore prices either stayed where they were at MSRP or went up. I think we're going to see the prices come down sooner rather than later because no one can afford to buy them. But yeah. I'll be interested to see what AMD can do. And then interested to see how AMD's offerings will work in about 6 months' time when they've done some driver updates and performance improvements. Just an FYI, someone has stolen your PC from the desk behind you. Thanks. It was me. It's upstairs. It's probably directly above me. Because I was using it to troubleshoot and do more testing on the FreeSync monitor. Or not FreeSync monitor. And because you're going to ask, no, I haven't heard anything from them. I haven't, reached out, as it were. But they were quite receptive to my last video, so I don't know. In the past that was the case, now not so sure. Well, it kind of depends, because the value proposition from an outright standpoint, from what I remember anyway, isn't Was it Steve from Hardware Unboxed or Steve from Gamers Nexus? One of the Steves was saying that the like performance improvement from like, what was it, 2080 or 2080 Ti or whatever to 3070 or whatever, that gap is smaller this generation basically, and therefore, you know, value's lower. But yeah, I don't, because I don't have the card, it's not something that I've kept up with that closely. Thanks, Steve. Back to you, Steve. Nvidia's brought us to this position where the 4090 is the one people should be buying, as their other cards in the line don't make that much value sense. That's where we're at. It's kind of surprising, you know, to hear that a 4090 is anything like the word 4090 and value in the same sentence. Those shouldn't go together. Yeah, it's AMD drivers that are keeping me from getting an AMD card. That, and just had to spend 1200 at the dog mechanic. I'm just an auto mechanic, so that's the first time that I've heard any sort of medical staff referred to as mechanics. It's not untrue. It's just kind of funny. You're a car surgeon. Suppose you have tree surgeons. Anyway, focus. 99% of folks don't/can't buy a 4090. Yes, that is very, very true. That was Aussie Steve. We talked about it last week. Thank you very much. Sometimes my memory is useful, sometimes it's not. 4070 is under MSRP already in Australia. I saw one for 540-ish USD last night on flash sale. Damn, that is... They're culling the price quickly. I think I saw probably a headline about the 4070 really not selling well, which doesn't surprise me because, like, in the current economic situation, the people who can afford 4090s are kind of the cutoff point for the sort of people who can afford to buy anything or spend any money on a new gaming PC right now. And then the lower down the tier list, like card order you go, the more likely the people who were once potential buyers of that are now in a sort of worse economic situation and therefore can't afford to buy that tier of card. And especially because we don't have a proper lineup yet, like we don't have a 4050 or 4060, there's even less, like, if you can afford a 4070, you're probably already spending 2,000 on your system anyway, and if you can afford to spend 2,000 on a new gaming PC right now, there's a good chance that you might be able to afford 2.5 or 3 or 3.5 or 4, depending. And therefore, the higher tier cards end up making more sense. Because, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound and all. I got a line on a Zotac 3090 for $1,000 Canadian. Might go with an X99 Sabertooth with everything but the GPU for 500. Then I can get a 3070 Ti for 450. Might just go with that and sell my old rig. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad system. The X99 Sabertooth, depending on what chips with it, is certainly on the aging side. I don't know what system you have at the moment, so can't say for sure what the comparison is, but it, depending on what resolution you're gaming at. If you're gaming at 4040p, CPU generally matters a bit less, and so that's probably a decent shout. If you're gaming at 1080p, that's a bit more of a problem, or the CPU becomes a bit more of a bottleneck for you. My life's ambition is to become a goldfish mechanic. GG. Also, to actually reply to the AMD drivers quote, like, yeah, it's AMD drivers that are keeping you from getting an AMD card. I don't disagree with you, although when I was running, so I had an RX 6900 XT in my system for something like a year. That just for gaming, I don't recall having basically any like driver troubles. I did have driver troubles, but that was because I'm using Premiere Pro and After Effects and stuff for making videos. If I wasn't doing content creation stuff, I would have a lot less of a problem with it. And I probably would still have an AMD card in my system, but the content creation side is what drove me away. Did you hear back from Pixie Assault? No, I did mention that, but no. I heard back from them, from like when I published the first review of the PX275C Prime. They were, I think they like emailed me the next day saying something along the lines of, we appreciate that negative reviews are hard to hear about. We'll use this information to improve our future products. I haven't heard back from them this time. Bit more of a negative review. Oh dear. So yeah. I should have clarified the reason is I also run 3ds Max and AutoCAD, which are unstable enough as it is. Okay, yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah. I only need to run Fusion 360 for this sorts of designing. This is the 3D printing case. My 3D printer is having a pretty bad time at the moment, so the text that should be there, you can just make it out if the camera were to focus on it. And then this is where the sensor is. So it's nicely lined up. So you can, because this is for latency in particular, it's really useful to know where the sensor is so that when you're putting it like on the crosshairs of your like character, or you're putting it on the latency, reflex latency flash, know where the sensor actually is. It's not like super sensitive because you have a reasonably large hole, but it's good to know where it is relative. I would have put it central, but it's because of the PCB layout, it is literally as close to the back of the microcontroller as I can get it. That's it there. It's a little reverse mount one, which is really cool, which means that all of the components are single-sided, so all of the components are on this side of the board. There's only the switch and the little 2-pin leads that I need to solder from the back. Everything else is surface mount and on this side of the board. Have you heard AMD are now using CUDA equivalent on 6000 series cards, and later they can beat NVIDIA? Interesting. I haven't. I haven't had beyond using a, I think it might have been the 1600 XT for testing the Pixie monitor. I haven't used an AMD card properly for a bit, so I will have to have a look. Did I miss anything? Oh, my sister spent a fortune making a Freelander 2 work. I'm not surprised. Not surprised. Current GPU is the GTX Titan XP Galactic Empire Collector's Edition. Nice. I don't do enough work to warrant a Quadro, but the Titans have some Quadro features. I need more VRAM than anything. Yeah, that's fair. What was it? The Titans had something precision floating point. God, that's going back a bit. Yeah, how much VRAM does the Titan XP have? Is it like 12 gig? Whole system, including RAM, is in a custom water cooling loop. Nice. Didn't WAP have some Titan XPs or previous gen? Quite possibly. Is WAP here? No, he's not. He was in the chat in Discord earlier. 12 gig, right. Yeah, I mean, well, 4090 is 24 now? Which is pretty sweet for AI, as I found out with Stable Diffusion and Dream Booth in particular. The Titan XP was from 2017, 6 years ago. That's insane. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I did a sponsored video with Overclock GK with a Titan. Might have been a Titan XP. Might have been 2018. But that was like what was the stupidest system I could think of, and it was an i3. Like, might have been 10th gen i3, like a 10100 or something. I don't remember. I've even been 9th. Yeah. Hey man, I recently bought myself a Samsung 980 EVO Plus. I'm a little concerned about the temperatures. It reaches up to 70 degrees. Will that affect performance? So, there is a couple of things. First of all, your SSD will start thermal throttling at 75 degrees Celsius. That is the like smart thermal limit, and then it will start shutting like throttling performance to lower that speed to lower the temperature. 70 degrees is a little high. Most drivers that I tend to test only really get up to like 60 degrees Celsius with the motherboard's built-in heatsink. Like even after sustained writes, otherwise they generally sit at whatever the idle temperature is. And then the other thing to mention is there's kind of two different temperatures on an SSD. There's the controller, which is likely what the Samsung drive is reporting, and then there is the NAND flash. The NAND flash prefers to be warm, if not hot. The controller wants to be cool. And so that's generally the balance you get by putting a heatsink on, is that it kind of cools and heats the whole thing. It sort of links everything together, which is not necessarily the ideal state. Theoretically, in an ideal world, you would mostly like sort of 80% cool the controller, 20% cool the NAND. But anyway, what configuration do you have that in? Is it like obviously in your motherboard, and is it in its own heatsink? Like, is it in the motherboard's heatsink? Is that on the NVMe? Hold on, I have some props for you. Grab a handful of drives. Find one that has where is it? Right, there we go. So, anatomy of an SSD. I have a video on this, you should go watch it. So this is an older ADATA SSD. So these packages here are your NAND flash. This is what store the data. This big shiny one is the controller. This is what manages where the data that comes in from your M.2 bus goes on these drives. And this is a DRAM cache. In this case, you have one on either side, and you actually have two more NAND packages here. You can have a drive that looks more like this. This is a WD Blue SN500, where you have the controller and NAND flash, and that's it. There's no DRAM cache. This is single-sided, and you could actually technically lop it off here and it would still work. But yeah, basically, what are you saying? You said 980 Evo? Where can I read? 980 Evo Plus. I don't have a 980, but I do have a 970. And so yeah, that shiny bit is the controller. I think that's your DRAM cache, and then this is your NAND packages. I think the 980 on the high capacity ones, you had some of the back as well, but I can't remember. But yeah, so this bit wants to be cool. These bits want to be warm. And so yeah. I do have a 970 Evo Plus somewhere here. It might still be on there, there's more drives there, but what I could grab. Might also be in a system, I don't remember. But yeah, so basically, if this is in your motherboard and it has a heatsink on it, it's probably fine. If it's open air, as in just sitting in its socket like this, you might want to get a heatsink for it, or move it to a slot on your motherboard that has a heatsink, whatever. 70 isn't that bad, especially if that's 70 degrees in use. Whereas if it is 70 degrees just idling, that's a little on the high side. Motherboard didn't come with a heatsink. GPU and CPU get to around 70 degrees too, don't know if that'll matter. Well, it might be the ambient temperature in your case is the reason why it's going for it. Or get airflow over it. Very good points. Fan, depending on where it is, like if it's tucked under your GPU, you know, that's going to be difficult to get airflow on, but if it's the slot that's above the GPU and just below the CPU, an airflow from the front blowing over that will definitely help as well. My quiche pastry is chilling now. Next I have to bake it, but I don't have any of those little pastry beads to stop it dying in the oven. Should I wash some gravel from the drive? At least put some cling film down and then do that. Can pick up a heatsink for a few quid on Amazon. They're not overly expensive, but can make a difference. Yeah, that's true. One, either, or both. Arguably, if your SSD is basically cooking at, you know, by sitting ideally in open air, there's a very good chance that your VRMs are also cooking, and so it's probably worth having more airflow over the, like, from the front if you can. I think I need to get a heatsink because it gets that temp when not gaming. Any recommendations? Oof, yeah. Well, any old fan will definitely help. Arctic F12s are normally a very good and cheap solution. As for the heatsinks, really doesn't make that much of a difference, because mostly all you're doing is just strapping thermal mass to the drive. You can go with one of the like ridiculous ones from like Sabrent or whatever that have like heat pipes, and it's just ridiculous and way too massive and kind of pointless. But I don't have any specific recommendations is what I'm trying to say, but when looking for one, make sure you don't get one that isn't just like a thin metal jacket to that like wraps around it. Get one that is an actual like heatsink type thing, you know, like a larger lump of metal, ideally with some fins, but also airflow. Don't listen to Chris. He's about as bad influence as I am. Um. Where am I at? Did I miss anything? Don't think so. Nope. Brain's gone blank. I did have something I was going to say, but as always, my stellar train of consciousness has derailed. What videos do I have on the way? Oh, remember last week we were talking about VPNs and privacy? Well, I made a video about that. It's coming out tomorrow. And yeah, basically, I don't. It doesn't protect privacy. Which, like, the big line from all of the different VPN providers is that it, like, a VPN protects your privacy. Stay safe online. But in reality, the core service of a VPN is mostly for things like piracy. Doesn't actually, like, protect you from hackers or whatever. They often offer like basically kind of ad blocking antivirus type features on top, and those in theory can, but the bare service can't. And for the dark web, come on now. Well, yeah, but he's like Tor onion ring. Like, I guess you can use a VPN to then onion root, which is another layer of obscurity, but I mean, how many of the onion sites are run by the FBI anyway? Whenever I click on my VPN, it refills my magic drive. It's weird. Each to their own. It helps you sail the seas. A lot of cases are quite restrictive for airflow. They might look nice, but are practically greenhouses. Yeah. Sea of Thieves VPN stream. Oh dear. No, I don't think it'd be allowed. Yar. I can't say that Rob Braxman's name rings a bell for me, but let the ambulance go by. I'm not quite as paranoid as my friend Dan. But I'm certainly up there. I absolutely despise data collection. And run Pi-hole. I use Cloudflare. I run my own WireGuard VPN server for various very useful things, including to offsite backup. And the Pi-hole runs DNSSEC and all this sort of stuff. I absolutely hate Internet of Things stuff, specifically internet connected Internet of Things stuff. If you have to connect something to the internet, or like a smart door sensor or something, I'm not interested. If it's Zigbee controlled, I can control it from my Zigbee radio and therefore from Home Assistant, and so I'm all in. But if it has to be connected to Wi-Fi, no. IoT, where the S stands for security. Yeah. Cheers, that reminds me, Andy. I wanted to give a shout out to Brian at GCHQ. I once submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to GCHQ on records for myself. I think it was in like I think it was 2014, so it was like after the Snowden leaks. They said they didn't have anything. Didn't believe them though. Definitely put me on a watch list. What about 100k sub Jar Jar video? Do you know that I never actually promised that, right? Andy's now on another government list. I know, right? Oh dear. I think we were talking about it the other day is that, like, especially after the LTT Linus Tech Tips hack, my threat model is at an all-time high. I don't open links from emails. I don't open attachments from emails unless it's from someone that I've already corresponded with and trust whatnot. I still have what you call it, like Firefox has containers, so basically it encapsulates each site into its own effectively, I guess, well, contains a virtualized environment like a Docker container, and so that's something that I make use of. I was kind of one of the earlier I think one of the earlier people to use HTTPS everywhere, like as early as 2013 or 14 or whenever, basically very relatively early, because that prevents basically everything that a VPN says it saves you from, like just using HTTPS, which is default pretty much constantly now, but just a few years ago it wasn't, and yeah, that was using HTTPS and SSL certificates, certificated sites, encrypts all your traffic to them, including things like tokens, and so things like man-in-the-middle attacks, or was it ARP spoofing, doesn't work anymore. So yeah. I'm surprised you don't have a throwaway device just for emails. Well, one, I have like 10 email addresses, various personal work and whatnot, ones. So it's what you call it? It's something that, in theory, I would like to do. In fact, for a long while, I had a Windows VM set up that, in theory, I could open various attachments in. With obviously it being, once the attachment is there, it's it's never technically air gapped because it's on your own machine, but yeah, that as close to air gapped as I can make it because it's a VM, whatever. But it's not something that I bother with anymore because I just don't open the attachments. I don't even open the emails. Yeah. In theory, yes. In practice, it's I've never found that practical for me. Like Firefox, so the Google Analytics blocker, no script, and U-Matrix pick up on so many bits of tracking. Yeah, it's kind of surprising just how much I'm considering doing a bit of a like a video talking about looking at just what goes on your network, basically, because I have a Pi-hole. I've been running Glasswire for a little while. I've WireGuard, Wireshark, that I use occasionally, and there's already a lot of data there that I could show, and bearing in mind that in this household we don't use smart assistants and Internet of Things tat. So the traffic that I see is already remarkably minimal. But yeah. Hello Luca, how you doing? Have I talked about the new Discord UI themes and stuff? I have not. I'm not a Discord Nitro user, so I can only assume that those things are only available for Discord Nitro users. But okay. Driving to Italy next week. Nice. $9.99 USD a month for Nitro is too much. I mean, in the world where everything is a subscription service, especially like personal subscriptions, like I don't want to be spending another tenner a month on like anything. Like I don't want to spend another tenner a month on Discord, and you like already pay for Spotify Family and whatever, things like Netflix, whatever. Although no, so yeah, I really don't like personal subscriptions. £100 a year to upload 100 megabytes to a Discord server. Wow. Monthly subscriptions are equating to a fair amount nowadays. Yeah. I just use my personal email for banking and Raid Shadow Legends only, just for the safe stuff. Sponsored, but no, never. Discord did increase the upload file size limit from 8 megabytes to, I want to say, about 50. That does sound about right. I remember seeing the notification. But yeah, still no. Subscription services make some people very rich. Yeah. My bad, 25 meg. Wow, so generous. Like, I get it from a like business management standpoint, both why people sell subscription services and why someone like Discord has a relatively low file size limit, because the number of people who use Discord, especially who don't pay for Nitro, therefore are essentially free users, the amount of data that they generate, like upload, even if it is 8 megabytes at a time, it's still like an insane amount of data, I'm sure. Discord is essentially just a live version of forums. You're not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong. So Austin Evans surprised everyone with the announcement of his replacement/successor, Andy 2.0 soon. No. I'm oldish, so I don't really understand people using Spotify. I like actually having MP3s of my music. If I could, I'd have all my Steam games in physical format. For something like Spotify, the benefits outweigh the drawbacks for me. Obviously, we now sort of have, like, my phone has 256 gig of storage, even if some of that is taken up by the OS and like pictures and stuff. I have plenty of space to store all of the songs I would ever listen to on this. The convenience of having just an endless supply of music, no matter what I want to listen to, it's all there. It's always there. That is a sort of significant benefit for me personally. But Napster and Livewire, the one-stop place for your music files and many, many viruses. True. Should work on that before you fall apart. Well, fall apart completely. Yeah. My heart and lungs don't work so good. Wouldn't you like to have a nice physical disc, record, cassette, or an album you've been listening to for 30 plus years? Not really. My house has enough shit in it already. I don't need physical copies of songs that I probably won't listen to. I have a very weird or eclectic taste in music, and tend to have a listen to everything and anything all of the time. Go burning. So yeah, try to explain how we used to chat to each other, to the kids. MSN Messenger was something else. Yeah. What kind of music do you like? Well, generally it's rock, metal, like punk rock, but also like poppy. Not friend Dan likes Euro pop. Occasionally, you know, techno, swing, and I don't know, everything and anything. All of the time. Occasionally musicals. At least MP3s on your NAS, certain music is almost impossible to find. That is true. But the like I said, the sort of convenience and the discovery, like most of the songs that I listen to now I didn't know existed, and I wouldn't have thought to listen to if Spotify hadn't played it to me 14 times in a row. So, yeah. This stream should be renamed Thursday Night ADHD Chat Show. Yeah, yeah, it should be. Oh dear. With that said, seeing as both it's my usual hour and my throat's starting to go, I'm gonna leave it there. But yeah, I hope you have a very good week. Stay tuned for the VPN video tomorrow, and for I think Steam Deck video on Monday. Yeah, have a good week. Stay safe. Support my EDC in the comments, or in the description, and I'll catch you all next week. I'm delirious. Bye.